So hey, welcome back to Mrs. Wizard's Way. Have you ever wondered what possesses someone to want to become a teacher? Let me tell you my story. So when I graduated high school, I was, an 18-year-old kid going off to college, went off to the local community college. I wasn't going to be an education major. No way. I was going to be a graphic designer. Okay? Which was great. Good career. Makes good money. But then halfway through that first year, the people were like, hey, you're really good at explaining things. You should be a teacher. I was like, maybe I should. And at the time, it wasn't the same things going on. We're talking, this is the mid-90s. There's actually a bit of a teacher shortage. And for me, thinking of a job, I'm thinking, really intense graphic design with serious deadlines, or teaching, which I would get summers off. And at some point, even though I was a kid with not married, no kids, I was thinking, I would be married and I would have kids and I'd like to spend the summers with them. And I got all the holidays off. And the security and the retirement plan. I was like, this kind of actually sounds good. And I would teach a subject I really like. And I stayed with art because I was a graphic design major. I was an artist. I'd become an art teacher. And so, hey, this made sense. So I'd go ahead, progress through, went through community college, transferred to Wichita State. I was smart when I went to school. I went to the community college, and I transferred to Wichita State. And I didn't look for a big private school. I looked for scholarships, of course, but I wasn't going to go massively in debt. Now, mind you, again, mid-90s. It wasn't that college was horrendously expensive, but it was manageable. It was enough that I was able to work and kind of keep paying it off. So I didn't actually graduate with debt because I lived at home. But it didn't matter where I went to school. So if I had gone to that private school, or I'd gone to an Ivy League, I was put on the same salary schedule as every other teacher. And so if you went to, little bitty nothing college, or you went to, Ivy League, you're both making the same amount. So that was one of the reasons I didn't think I need to go any, more than that. And I just graduated with a bachelor's of art education. So graduate, the first year, I was offered a full-time job teaching elementary art. Yeah, that's like herding cats. Yeah, no. A full-time elementary art teacher will see 1,000 kids in a week, at least in the Wichita system. 1,000 kids in a week. You see them once a week for 40 minutes, at least at that time. Yeah, there's no way to know them. You couldn't interact with them personally. You were just basically there to give their teachers some plan time. And it was really, I was like, I didn't want to do that. And so the first thing I found was a part-time job teaching computer studies. I taught Apple IIe's typing. Yeah. Luckily I had a very good mentor because I didn't know what I was doing. They don't tell you and teach you in college what you're really going to be doing. Okay, we all know that. Those of us who have gone to college, it's kind of like, okay, check that box off. Now I can go get a real job out there in the real world and really learn what I'm going to be doing. So luckily I had somebody who was really good and helped me navigate what I was supposed to. But it was only part-time. The other part of my day, I had actually gotten a job at an independent Apple reseller because this was the time before Apple stores. And so I worked in the service department. I went in, I said, I really like working on Macs. I really, my specialty in art, as an art teacher, you have to specialize in something. So I specialize in computer graphics. I really like Macs. And they're like, okay, great. We're so desperate for somebody. We'll take you. And so I started working in the service department, and it was really fun. It was on-the-job training again because they didn't have training schools to send you off to. But I was really good at software problems, did a lot of hard drive exchanges, crossing over day-to-day, operating out installations, trading out floppy drives, CD drives, yeah. But got really good at that. But I did that for a couple of years. So I did that for 2 because I taught typing for 1. And at the end of that 1, my very first year teaching, the principal said, Apple IIe's are ancient. I'm like, yeah, of course they're ancient, but that's the best technology you had in the building. That's what you got. Well, we're going to change the program, but if you'd like to, you can do this other thing. And it was totally different than what I was wanting to do. And to be honest, every day when I would go into the building to work, and it's only a couple hours, like 3 hours, 3.5, 4 hours, I would get sick, nauseous. There was something in the building, maybe a mold or some sort of a spore, and I would just get nauseous by the end of that time in there. And I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to stay in this building anymore. So I started looking around for something else, and I found another part-time position, but this was in art. And it was at one of the 3 alternative high schools at that time. And this one was located on the northern side of Wichita, where the population was very Hispanic and African American. Not that neither of those, it was just naturally people went to schools in their area, and so that's what was in the area. And so there was a very large population of those 2 groups in the building. And again, this is the late 90s now. Yeah. So we're not to the OGs of gang activity. I guess they're a little bit older. They're more my age, I guess, now. But this is definitely some gang activity was happening. And I actually got a very good lesson on tagging, on how to read tags. The kids were great. They really liked me. Luckily, I was a young kid, coming in there to teach them art. So it was a kind of a fun class. But I taught there the first year, half-time. I ended up teaching there for 6 years total. The first year was part-time, and so were the last 2, and I'll explain that in a second. But it was a really good experience. A lot of the kids were there not by choice. They had been caught. They had probation officers. Some of the kids just couldn't make it in regular schools. They fell behind for whatever reason, and they just couldn't, or maybe go at the pace everybody else was, and they needed to go at a different pace. Some of the kids just said, I can't do regular school. I need something different. Some were invited to come to our building because they'd gotten kicked out of their previous one. Some of them had kids. None of them were horrendously horrible. There were a few that were like, oh, not so nice. Some of them got into big trouble later, and that'll be a different video. But it was a good experience. I taught everything in art. Well, that I was reasonable because their attendance wasn't always very good. So, and I wasn't a very good ceramic person. I've done ceramics, but I'm not that good of a ceramic artist. And I'm thinking, with my skill level and your attendance, this is not going good for ceramics. So, and I had the smallest kiln possible, so it wouldn't have been very beneficial. So we worked with media that they could work on and then maybe come back a couple of days later and still be, working and not have to, it dried up, I've got to start over. So a lot of intro to art, a lot of drawing and painting, some 3D design. The classes were not direct instruction. You didn't get up and there was no lecturing because kids could come and go at any time in the year. You'd have new kids show up. The classes were usually very full at the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year, if a kid got done with all their classes, earned all their credits, because you could finish a credit at any time, they stopped coming because they really didn't need you. Why would I start a class the last month of school? They had to be in the class at least 60 days. 60, not calendar days, 60 course days as a minimum to earn their half credit. So fall semester, spring semester. Okay. And so sometimes the kids do really good. They get out real close to 60 days. Some of them took a long time, and you're like, come on, you got to get through this. You're pushing them. But there's no direct instruction, so they're all at their own pace, and so you're constantly kind of pinging back and forth between each and every one of them, keeping them organized. So it's great for me to get organized and to work with kids that I hadn't really worked with before. I grew up in the rural parts of Kansas, not far out of Wichita, but we didn't have kids with an urban setting. It just didn't happen. We were all farm kids and country kids. So that was a really good learning experience for me. Now, I said the last 2 years were part-time. Well, the principal that I had originally at that building retired, and he was issuing the PE credit, and he decided that he was retiring, which was fine. He was at that age. He can do that. But he said, on the very, very last day of school, the very last day, in the afternoon, he told me I was going to have to be cut to part-time because they need to hire a PE teacher. He knew he was retiring. He could have said something weeks earlier. So by the time he told me, all the good jobs had already been taken. All the kids who had graduated, people who wanted to shift and change had already been taken. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because I was like, there's some life events I hadn't shared with them. One was I was seeking a divorce from my husband, not the wizard, But I was like, okay, I knew that was going to happen during the summer, and that's none of their business. That was personal business. It didn't affect my job in the slightest, so it wasn't like I was trying to hide that. But it's like I knew that was going to happen. I was like, what am I going to do? At that time, I had a small child, and so a lot of tears that day. Toward the end of summer, still getting paychecks, luckily. Toward the end of summer, I was placed at an elementary art position because they're always searching for elementary people. So I got half-time at this alternative high school in the morning and half-time teaching 400 elementary students in the afternoon because it was just part-time. And it was a little bit smaller school. Because I said, earlier I said it was 1,000 in a week. Well, this was part-time, a smaller school, so it was 400. Still, I hardly ever got to know their names. And I was there for the 2 years. And in the 2 years, we got set in this one room, set it up. They said, yeah, we're moving you. Oh, so I have to box that room up so they can move it to there and, unbox again. So that was fun. And the first year I was there, they didn't have air conditioning in the building yet. And so they would meet in the afternoons in the library was air conditioned. Well, at the other school, I was in meetings in the morning. So when I go to the elementary school during the plan week, I would have meeting. I'm like, please, can I go work in my room? I'm trying to set this up. Oh, no, you need to be here for the meeting. It's like, but I just heard what you said in my morning meeting. I managed through, but it was kind of annoying that first experience at that school. It was a great experience again. Lots of little kids, and little kids are really cute. They like to draw you pictures. They give you hugs, but it was a lot. I would have seating charts. I had a really good cooperating teacher when I was doing my student teaching in elementary level. She gave me some really good ideas on how to manage kids and try to keep my sanity and teaching lessons, because you're not teaching anything overly complex. You're trying to keep just some basic stuff down because, again, as the elementary art teacher, you are the person that is giving their classroom teacher a plan. Yeah, their break during the day. So that's your job. What was frustrating was that when it was time for the classes to change, well, you line up one class out in the hallway. The next one's about to come in there on the other side of the hallway. Well, the first class's teacher hasn't come yet. Well, and the other teacher who's just now getting there, and it's her time for her plan to start, she's like, yeah, I'm out of here. So I'm out in the hall with about 50 kids waiting for the teacher because I can't let the kids go into the classroom because who knows what they'll do. I can't leave the other ones out in the hallway. So sometimes teachers are really good. The drop-off teacher would say, hey, I'll take these kids back to their room. I'm like, oh, thank you, because I'm like, what am I going to do with 50 kids in a hallway? But we managed. Other things that were frustrating is this school usually had 3 teachers per grade level. And I would not have the 3 classes in one day. They were usually different days. And your day wasn't organized just like I'm going to teach first graders today, second graders, third graders. No. It was first through fifth. I didn't have kindergartners. So it'd go 3, 5, 2, 1, 2, 3, all sorts of over the place. And sometimes a teacher would have to leave. Maybe they got sick in the middle of the day and they could not get a substitute. So they said, okay, well, half of the class, 15 of you, maybe 12, 15 of you go to this teacher, 12 or 15 of you go to this teacher, because they had 25, 30 kids a class. Okay, so now the 3 classes became 2 classes. Well, they had art that day. Well, the other class had art that day. I was like, what am I going to do? Now I have, it's art day, it's my plan. I need to take my class there. So she would bring all of her 45 kids to my class. And I'm like, I don't have room for 45 kids. Luckily, the kids who were the other teachers' kids usually were happy to be there. They liked art anyway. I usually kept some coloring sheets, just some plain paper, gave them some crayons. I said, hey guys, I can't do anything for you today. I can't pull your artwork out get us off schedule. I can't dig out, all your different things. But go out, I'll let you sit in the hallway. I'll check on you. Kept the door open and let them color and draw out there. Because it was like, what else can you do? Yeah, they don't teach you that in college. So again, a great experience. I went from the alternative school, which was very kids with some attitude, to the more afternoon was the kids that were just a bunch of them. I did tell the kids in the afternoon, I said, hey, if I don't know your name, that's actually a good thing because that means I'm not having to say your name lots of times. And they're like, oh, okay, that means I'm a good kid. Yes, I mean, you're a good kid. I don't mean to not know your name, but I have 400. Plus, I had the kids at the other school as well. So between the two, I had a really good experience between both settings. But luckily, that was just for 2 years. Then I spent the last 19 of my 26 years teaching at a high school, and I really liked this high school. I did my student teaching there. It was the perfect setting for me. I was able to teach what I actually specialized in, which was computer graphics. So I was teaching photography and video and graphic design. Eventually, I got 3D modeling. Yeah, and then I did have to go back and teach some intro to art classes, but it was great. I was doing what I wanted to do. The schedule was amazing when I first got hired there. This is part of why teachers stop teaching, because things aren't what they are when they don't stay how they were presented when they were hired. So we had a 4x4 schedule, which meant 4 classes in the fall, 4 classes in the spring. So that meant I taught 3 classes in the fall and 3 in the spring, which means because you always had a planning period. So maybe 75 to 85 kids. Yeah, the classes weren't horrendously big, because when I first started, I didn't have very many computers. I had like 20, and they ranged from like an LC2, those of you Mac people, to I think I had an eMac. That was probably the fastest one I had. Yeah, nothing overly fast, all Macs. I had 6 digital cameras for my photography class. It was a little bit easier with graphic design. So I only had about 21 or so kids. Eventually, I got more computers, and classes got bigger. But still, I was usually limited by the size of the class was the size of the computers. You can't put more kids when I don't have computers for them to work at. It doesn't work that way. You can't teach curriculum when you're trying to teach graphic design, for example. It was quite the orchestrated dance to do photography. So I would have 24 kids in the class. And so I divided the class in half. Okay, so now I have 2 groups of 12. Remember, I had 6 cameras. So I would send for half of the 90-minute block, because we had 4 classes, a 90-minute block, I would send the 12 kids out. They would pair up. So 2 would share 1 camera. They'd go out and they'd take pictures and say, you have to be back by a certain time. So they'd come back at a certain time. I'd try and check on them, look outside, see how they're doing. And then we'd switch. They'd download, they'd switch, and they'd get their cameras, out. They'd switch group. Yeah, it was quite the orchestrated dance to make that work, but it worked. And over time, I was able to, buy more cameras, got the new, got new computers, got more technology. And so that was great. The things that really make teachers want to stop teaching, well, that 4x4 was hard to make work. And the English and the math teachers really hated it, because a kid could have English first semester freshman year and maybe not have English again until second semester sophomore year, like a whole year later before they'd have that class again. Too much brain drain. Okay, so, and trying to get all the classes to figure out, it was really hard for scheduling wise. So they said, well, let's change the 4x4 to a 5x5. Nice. So we had 5 classes and 5 classes. So they had they got extra credits now. So they were earning more credits than they actually needed, which for some kids, that could be handy. Other kids, we were actually a very academically rigorous school. So they didn't really, some of the kids didn't mind. They kind of liked it. They got more electives, because when you add another class, they're not adding another math class. You're usually adding another elective. And so, okay, so now I have 4 classes in the fall and 4 classes in the spring. She's got the plants. That was okay. Then they tried to do this weird schedule where, well, that's not working either. So we did this weird A, B, A, B, A, B for eternity. So one week you would have a class 3 times. The next week you would have them 2, 3, 2. And then you never knew what day it was. You're like, is it A day or B day? Is it purple day? Is it silver day? What day is it? And it was very confusing. And it got really hard. Oh, it's Labor Day. We don't have school Monday. Oh, what's Tuesday? Yeah, we had a snow day. Oh, well, we're not going to change the now because it says in their agenda. So now I lost a color of day. So they're off schedule and trying to keep classes together, because you don't want to have, if you're teaching 2 of the same class, 2 of the same prep, you don't really want to have them too far apart. You kind of like them somewhat together. So like materials and things like that are out at the same time. Yeah, so that's okay. That didn't work. That was torture. Then the district said, we are low on money. Shocking, a school district low on money. Yeah. So the district says, okay, we're low on money. So what we're going to do is we're going to shorten the school year, but we're going to lengthen your day 30 minutes. And you think, okay, 30 minutes, that's okay. But 30 minutes when you're teaching, by the end of the day, everybody was just like little zombies. We were just kind of brain dead, just because your brain is on all the time. And as an art teacher, you don't have just one objective. You give them a problem, and if I have 20 kids in the classroom, I have 20 different solutions about to happen. So I'm keeping up with what all is going on for every single kid in every single class. Your brain is just like, oh, mush. Now, mind you, this is all happening before we started filming YouTube. I started filming YouTube when I think we got to the traditional 7-hour straight classes. Just 7 classes every single day. Yeah. That's how it ended at the end. It was a lot. It was like, okay, this is what we're going to do today. Okay, work for about 20 minutes. Okay, it's time to clean up. Because you saw them for like 50 minutes. And so it took a few minutes to get everybody situated and started. Took a few minutes to get everybody cleaned up. And it was just cycles of, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So that was a really big challenge. There was one year that the budget was so bad for the entire state because we had a very less than desirable governor at the time. He totally did not fund education. And the year that I was supposed to finally earn my longevity pay, which is kind of like a Christmas bonus, you earn those at 15 years in the district I worked at. So I had to work 15 years before I was able to be eligible to earn this longevity bonus. They gave it to you in November before Christmas, thanks, and then took half of it for taxes. Okay, 40%. Okay. That year, they said, yeah, we're freezing the salary schedule. So not only did I not get a cost of living raise, which would have been nice, but they said no. And the next year they unfroze it, but they didn't give you anything extra. They didn't go back and pay, yeah. So that was definitely, you wonder why people are getting out of teaching. These are some of those reasons as why. What did I like about teaching? I loved the kids. The kids were great. The elementary kids were cute, but I really actually liked the high school kids. You could laugh with them. You could joke with them. People, maybe because some teachers weren't always, connected to the kids. I always tried to not be friends with them, but, we could laugh and joke. The teachers always say, no sarcasm. It's like, I loved sarcasm with the kids. If the kid's tapping a pencil, like just sitting there going tap, 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 tap. I was like, hey, Johnny, I'm going to chop your fingers off. What? Oh, I would just knock that off. I would say things that, not to say, hey, stop that. I would try and find a different way to say it and say, make them think, oh, she means, I shouldn't be doing that. And they kind of smile about it and they usually stop. I didn't become a teacher to make a huge difference. I wanted to be that teacher that I could teach them, prepare them for life, do things that they could use through the rest of their life, how to become like a better photographer, how to at least make something that looks nice, not just, we've seen graphics we've got from people in our business world and you're like, who designed this? A 3-year-old? Yeah. I wanted to at least be able to give them some skills that they could use the rest of their life. That was kind of what I was trying for. I wasn't there to save the world. Still not trying to save the world, but that's what I did. So when did I decide to quit? I actually decided to quit that last year, early in the year. Maybe even the year before a little bit. I was thinking, and I was starting to get a little push from the wizard. He's like, hey, you really don't need to be doing that anymore. And I'm thinking, no, but I like it. I really like the interaction. I like talking to people. That last year, yeah. It was definitely getting to the point where too much work, not a lot of consideration. At one point, it was the irony was before I had said that I was quitting, I had done something and the principal had done something well. I should say something well. The principal came up and he said, gosh, if you ever quit, we're going to be in a bunch of trouble. Thinking, yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm sorry, but you can't keep, treating your teachers, without, some consideration for what all the work we have to do, without some consequences. And I guess they're learning that now. So that's my story of teaching. I'm glad you guys were here with me today. Next week, going into the construction world. Yeah, going to do some work. Unfortunately, not the bus. It's too cold to be working on the bus. But I've got a big project going on in the house that I was going to share with you guys for next week. So I'll see you then. Bye.